All right, all right. Welcome everybody. Happy Friday. Hope everyone's had a nice week. Hopefully everybody's safe and well. And thanks for joining us. This week we have two all-stars joining, Brandon Woltman and myself. We have Dr. Erin Elliott and Ryan Javanbakht from sleeptest.com joining us on our weekly happy hour. So again, what we want to do here is have an opportunity for the industry to meet some of the people that we see at conferences, that we see on stage, that are key players in the industry, and figure out who they are as people and hear what they're doing with the industry, how they're contributing, how they're getting through COVID, and just to get to know them a little bit. Plus, it's Friday, and it's an excuse to have a drink and celebrate with everybody. So again, thanks for joining, and looking forward to having a nice hour and a half going forward with everybody. So thank you for joining. All right, so Brandon, if we could advance one slide here. So this is what we'll go through a little bit. We'll recap last week. Last week we had really great guests. We had Scott Craig, CEO of Midwest Dental, and Dr. Suresh Arkandit. We had a lot of feedback, a lot of side messages saying that they set the bar pretty high. So Ryan, Dr. Elliott, just saying.
Well, he is a better looking Persian than me, so I don't know. Erin, you got anything better against Scott Craig that we could fight against?
Not at all. Not at all.
Disagree.
We have plenty of compliments to embarrass you both, so I think.
Yeah. I think we have some. We all know you guys pretty well. I think we're gonna air out some stories. We'll see how long this goes. So again, we're gonna hear a little bit about Ryan and Dr. Elliott's story. Again, I'm Greg Vogel. I'm based out of New Jersey, and my colleague Brandon Woltman, based out of Texas, Dallas metro area, and we work for ProSomnus. And we have to say that because Brandon is still clocked in Central Time Zone, and with a cocktail in his hand, he's got to be doing a little bit of work.
I'll take a little vacation days, an hour every Friday.
Yes. Not sure if anybody's tuning in, following up the roundtable that Delta Sleep and Nearman Practice Management put on. Our leader, Len Liptak, CEO of ProSomnus, and some other oral appliance manufacturer executives just had it. It was a pretty good talk, and it was nice. It was good to hear everybody talking and seeing how we could grow the industry and what is important in an appliance, what is important for the industry, what is important for science to move this industry. And if you did just tune into that, we invite everybody to share some questions, whether it's a follow-up from the roundtable, or we have some questions here, and whether it's clinical, personal, or you want to know, how Ryan always looks so dapper with his beard, feel free to ask.
It's a 1.
It's a 1?
It's a 1.
Nice.
Oh.
Again, we want
to. So again, this is a thank you to Dr. Suresh Arkandit and Scott Craig for joining us last week. And if anybody needs their contact information, I know I connected some people throughout the past couple days, and we'd be happy to connect you. But our first guest, Dr. Erin Elliott, you may have seen her on stage at your local YouTube channel, or even at the local car detailing, we could talk about that story in a little bit about the shrink wrap over a car. So Dr. Elliott, Tell us who you are. What's your story?
Well, you kind of have it summed up right there. I am a mother of 2 teenage boys, 9th and 8th grade, Jameson, and then yes, I did name my kids after how they were conceived. So I have Jameson, and then the younger one is Chevy. I'm just kidding. The younger one, Greg, you got to meet him.
Yes.
His name is
both
Jensen.
of them I met both.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And then my husband of almost 22 years is Tom there. And everyone loves Tom. So I am a partner at Post Falls Family Dental, where I've been there almost 17 years. And I created Sleep Better Northwest over 10 years ago when I got started in dental sleep medicine, because I was getting referrals, but back then there was a lot more confusion about how dentists played a role in sleep. And so it kind of helped eliminate some of that confusion. It's not a separate business per se. I probably should have set it up that way at some point, but it's kind of more of a marketing type thing. And then because sleep was successful in my general dental practice, I kind of got some requests to, hey, why don't you come teach us how you did it? Just kind of more step-by-step cookbook approach. And so I started kind of going in office and helping train teams in dental offices. And that's where I met a gentleman, well, I would never call him a gentleman, a dentist named Tarun Agarwal, or T-Bone as he's affectionately goes by. Yes, down there on the lower left. And great pictures, guys.
Yeah, of course, we got you covered.
But T-Bone saw me on a podcast with, what's his name? Howard Ferrand. And he's like, hey, come teach my office how to do this. I want to get it going again in my practice. And then he's like, I have this teaching center, so let's go ahead and just create a course. And as soon as I did my first 2-day course at his practice in Raleigh, North Carolina, I called Tom and I was like, I'm home. I found my home. So that's kind of where a lot more speaking opportunities and stuff came. And lastly, I am one of 3 of the Z-Pack podcast that is dedicated to dental sleep medicine. And the upper left picture is because one day I was working and I just giggled to myself, and my assistant rolled her eyes and says, oh crap, what do we have now? Because I always come up with kooky ideas, and that's where the Queen of Good Air came to be. And then because I don't want to be a one-hit wonder, the second video came out, and that's Air Baby. So that's what you're seeing there.
Yeah, we will share the links for everybody, please, to visit those.
And then Ryan Javanbakht, he's CEO at sleeptest.com. You've been in the healthcare industry for just over a decade, right? And then also
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, your favorite things, being a father or being a husband and a father. And then also somewhere in your bio it was bi-weekly chats with Dr. Erin Elliott. I think that was on there too. So let us know a little bit more about you, your personal life, and a little bit about the business to start.
Well, with regards to that bi-weekly chat, it is one of my favorite things to do, but I got to say, being off of our routine sucks. And so I think we don't have them as much anymore. But just for the record, I'm the one that checks in the day before to see if we're on, because it is at 5:30 in the morning every other Tuesday on my calendar. And this woman is actually usually getting out of the gym, and I'm going to the gym. And so I'm honored to call Erin a friend, and we get to have some pretty deep talks that we're not going to share any of that stuff with you, because that's what's beautiful about our relationship. Even though we don't see each other every day, we can be open, transparent, talk about industry, talk about business, but also talk about our hearts. So thanks, lady. I appreciate you. Yeah, outside of that, I'm just a regular dude, just like these two hoodlums right here. I have spent most of my career in healthcare. I have a love for dentistry and orthodontics. Is where I started with Invisalign, moved into peripheral vascular with a company called Bard, who's now under BD, and I fell into sleep after I really understood that my dad's own cardiovascular issues, who he doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, non-obese, non-diabetic, exercise every day of his life, was a former so-called professional soccer player back in Iran back in the day. He struggles with sleep apnea, and that is what's caused his heart disease. And so come to find out, I have sleep apnea, so it doesn't matter who you are, how old you are. It's out there. It's all airway, so both my parents have blessed me with a phenomenally small airway. And so at any rate, I'm here because of it. But busting my tail at work, but more importantly, I can't wait. This will be the first day at 5 p.m. where I can stop what I'm doing and go hang out and be goofy with these people, because it's probably the only time in life where I get to kind of check out and, you know, be a goofball, be a dad, and hopefully be a good husband somewhere in the middle. Yeah, soccer, coach t-ball, baseball. I'm not very good at baseball. Played through elementary school, third base. Soccer's my thing. I'm better off playing basketball or baseball, probably with my feet.
Ryan, it's funny that when Brandon and I, when we were doing our 10 plus hours of research and setting all this up for our weekly happy hours, and all the time we put in for all this, it's not just Google Images, everybody. One comment we had, and this is sincere, is that we've seen you talk. A lot of people on this call have probably seen you talk. And you always mention you being a father, and you always mention you being a husband, and that's pretty cool. I mean, the letters CEO don't really come out of your mouth. The words husband and father always do, and I'll tip my cap to that. That's pretty cool. And these pictures, everyone you gave us, I think the DSP, the cover of DSP, we had to get that one on our own. All the other ones you gave us was you and your family. So kudos to keeping your priorities right.
I do my best. Not to say I'm good at them, but I think it's why we're here, right? I think that's why Erin's great at leading her team or leading other people she trains. There's a different sense of purpose with regards to what we do. This is just what we do during the day. You know, sure, CEO, president, but at the end of the day, I think the best part about that is providing work for other people. And, you know, that's pretty challenging right now in today's world. And good and bad, I love people, and it is what it is. That's who we are.
And I want to compliment you both on your extremely rigid work ethic. I mean, through everything. I think Dr. Elliott, I remember, you know, just getting into the industry and finding out who you were and what you were doing and pushing forward. And then you told your story. And then Ryan, you know, about you and healthcare, and you have a startup company with sleep tests. Both of you have in common, besides soccer, and I'm interested to see you both on the field against each other, maybe put together a team when this is over. But I'll be a spectator or goalie. I'll be embarrassed. Back to your work ethic, I think that you both mentioned family all the time. That's where you're getting it from. Erin, you mentioned that your father was a dentist and you're a mini-me. And then Ryan, you were mentioning about your parents, your father from Iran and coming over here, had nothing, mother had nothing, and now they give everything. So if you both could speak about maybe your part of your whys, maybe an aha moment of your purpose with this, and then, yeah, a little bit of shout out to the families that got you here. Loaded question.
We'll start with the KOL.
He teases me because I didn't know what that meant for like 2 years, what KOL meant. I have to say that I almost feel like a work ethic is intrinsic, like you're just kind of born with it, because I can't remember not working hard. And I have teenage boys now, and so it's really hard for me to parent, because I'm like, come on, like, don't you just go do it? You know, like that's what you're supposed to do. You just work hard all the time. And I wish I could switch off work when I get home. So what I've kind of done more is kind of, I don't know, bring my family along with me. But saying that, my dad was a lot the same way. And oftentimes my husband, after a family get together, he'll look at me and he goes, "Are you sure you weren't adopted?" Because I'm just so much different than my family. But I am just like a mini me of my dad. And he was always a hard worker, good provider, really honestly funny. We finish each other's sentences. And he was very brave, I would say, too, because I did grow up in Orange County, California, kind of right by where Ryan is now. And he commuted.
It's
with
okay.
20
You can talk trash now and why you
Yeah.
left.
No.
'Cause I'll join you.
No, because I'll tell you, I saw your weather report. I'm very jealous, but
Yes, as
I'm
am
up
I.
in North Idaho, and we haven't been above, like Greg said, 60 degrees for a long time. The only the only time I've cried through this whole COVID thing is when I woke up to snow in April. I was like, Canada, please. No, saying that he traveled through on the worst traffic freeway for many years because that's just what he did. And he had a very successful dental practice. And when it came time for me to look at undergrad, I was going to UCLA because that's where I was brainwashed, born and raised a UCLA fan because that's where my dad went to dental school. And I went to visit one weekend, and then I went to this really small conservative Christian college school in the middle of Amish country near Buffalo, New York. Like the nearest movie theater was 45 minutes away. It was in the middle of nowhere. And I chose Houghton College for a academic and soccer scholarship. So I know that was a big step for me to take, but it's also, I think, kind of my parents' fault because I was so independent and just ready to see life outside of California. I know the world revolves around California, but there is life outside of it. So I trekked all the way to Buffalo, New York, and that's where I met Tom. He's from there. So my dad, I think they felt good about me going out there, knowing that it was a good decision for the future of my life, but my life would be totally different if I didn't go there. So I ended up in Idaho, but my dad at 55 years old sold his practice in Long Beach, California, and did a startup. This is in 1996 when I was away in New York, and they did give me the forwarding address. But he moved his practice to Vancouver, Washington, which is near Portland, and just started from the ground up because he knew he'd probably die from a heart attack sitting in traffic just with all the stress and everything. And he wanted kind of a fresh start for our family. And so he made a bold choice. And he was one of my first patients for sleep. Do we have time for me to tell kind of more
Yeah, let's go
on this story?
Yes.
Go, girl, go. I thought
So,
this is happy hour. We're just hanging out, right?
Well,
Yes.
I don't like talking too much. I was studying for senior boards my senior year of dental school. So I was in Omaha, Nebraska at Creighton, and this was November of 2002. And I got a call from my mom that said, "Hey, do you know that cough that your dad has had for, 3 months?" And they couldn't find the source of it. They acid reflux or, all these things. And what they finally discovered is that he had a 20-pound tumor growing in his abdomen, and it was pushing on his diaphragm. And so what they discovered what it was a retroperitoneal sarcoma, which is a fancy way of saying the connective tissue in his abdomen was just growing out of control. And so that Christmas break, when I came home, we were in the hospital with him while he was getting chemo, and then he spent the next 6 months or so getting radiation to try to shrink the tumor. And he made it to my dental school graduation in May of 2003. Never seen him without a beard. He always had a beard because we have retrognathic mandibles. Thanks, Dad. I got that too. But he was so weak, he sat on the stage, but he was able to hood me in my graduation ceremony from dental school. And then 3 days later, he got the tumor cut out. Well, because of that surgery, he couldn't work on patients anymore. And so he always owned the practice. My little sister ran it. And when I chose to practice in Idaho, I kind of made it hard on myself because I could have stepped into a beautiful practice. We just didn't like the area. But I would fly over, and for 2 years, during my first baby and during my second pregnancy, I'd fly over and work at his practice as a second associate. And so when I said I was going to this course in 2009, it was Kent Smith's course, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go with you," because dentistry honestly was his hobby. He's not a woodworker. I mean, I inherited that too. It's like dentistry oozes out of my pores. And so when we went down there, I said, "That's fine, but we're not sharing a hotel room." But ultimately, I'm cheap and I was poor, and so we shared a hotel room. But the reason why I didn't want to is because of his snoring. It was so terrible. But what we discovered at the course is that he had moderate to severe sleep apnea. And it was one of those things that we made the appliance ahead of time, and we tested him that first night. And it was amazing to see his heart rate it was almost like he was finally resting. And so unfortunately, the tumor grew back 3 more times. And each time he got it cut out, and it finally took over. And we lost him like 4.5 years ago now. But what I do know is that when he was alive, even though it was cancer that ultimately took him, I know that he was living a better quality life, and my mom and him were traveling the world, honestly. And so that was that's really my why. As much as I joke about how much I like to sleep and how my husband posts pictures of me sleeping everywhere, my why is really my dad. So that's kind of the long story.
Well, appreciate the context and story, and certainly could all empathize with that and understand the why there. And Ryan, that's one of the things you talk about as well is again, like I said, we've all seen both of you speak on stage. And Ryan, tell us a little bit further about your why. So you're in sleep, you've been in sleep, you're having success in sleep, but how and why are you in it?
I know you sent the questions ahead of time, but you changed it. I think it goes back, forgive me for answering the question earlier, but I think it's an understanding, right? An understanding how important sleep is. And I think when we talk about sleep, which we do more than anything else that we do in our lives, and we talk about apnea being an epidemic in the U.S., and we have family members like Erin's or mine, both my parents have apnea. And fortunately, both my dad's transitioned off of PAP therapy now after doing some implants and so on and so forth into an appliance, which, thank you, gentlemen, that happens to be a ProSomnus device. Every day he sends me a picture of his iWatch and how well he's sleeping and excited about not wearing his PAP. So it's pretty cool to see, but I think overall, with all due respect to our industry, with all due respect to what we are, I'm not trying to sound better about this. And I think maybe it's more so when we get struck with something like COVID, we start thinking about the gratitude and the contentment of where we are and what we're doing. I have 3 words that I operate on: purpose, service, and gratitude. And I'm not saying I'm good at them, but they're on I have a window that I use for a whiteboard because I need the reminder all the time. But the one thing that really strikes me with regards to one of those words is service. So how do we serve other people? How do we serve other clients? How do we serve patients? But they're not just patients, they're people. I'll tell you just a quick story. It's pretty cool. My daughter wants to be a doctor or a nurse or be in healthcare. And I always wanted to get into healthcare because I knew I could help people live better lives. And at the same time, let's be honest, generate revenue by doing so. And, she's kind of adapted that same thing. My son's coming along with what he wants to do. He wants to be a paleontologist, archaeologist, oceanographer. So I don't know how you go to school for all that, but I think if anything, it's just how do we serve other people, whether it's now during COVID, whether it's in life, and think about things from a different or bigger perspective than us, because we can all be very selfish. It's about me. All we want to hear is our name and who we are and what's in it for me. But at the end of the day, if I can get up in the morning and realize that I have 11 webinars yesterday, legitimately, 8 the day before, 10 the day before that, 60% of them are new client opportunities, but 40% are current clients who need help reaching their patients right now. And I love that stuff, and not all that makes me money, let's be honest. But what it is, it's an opportunity to get back to the people that get back to me and provide for my family. So again, I think it's the one where I would hang out between purpose, service, and gratitude. I would say with regards to why would be the service. Still working on contentment and gratitude though.
I would say though that Ryan, especially, and it's why we leave our family and we go and do the things we do and travel and all that stuff. Like what I love is making connections with other dentists who love what they do or, want to be better. And I don't always get that in a lot of other dental environments.
Mhm.
And to get people excited and helping that many more people, and just like Ryan's, mission statement that's kind of on everything is no patient left behind. And that means influencing the dentist around the country that can get to those patients that are walking in their office each and every day and helping them so that they can eliminate a lot of the BS that we have that impedes patients from getting help. And that sleep test is by far the magic of getting the patient, I think, acceptance and ownership over their disease, because usually it's, oh, I don't have that. The denial is real.
It's
and
a
when
confirmation.
It's like the light bulb goes off there. It seriously is the magical moment. You can literally see a shift in how they respond. But if you do dental sleep medicine all day long, that is amazing that the dentists have been able to create that. Like, hats off, because that's not an easy thing to create. But a lot of times their patients are already teed up and ready to go by the time they see them. And in a general dental setting, you're seeing all this, and you have the psychology part of trying to convince them that it is an issue. So that's for me has been fun to discover over the last 10 years, is kind of getting to the person and what motivates them and figuring that person out and how that data from the sleep study applies to them personally. In medicine, we too often forget that there's a human being at the core of that, and for that specific person, so
Yeah,
go ahead, Ryan.
it's a lot of times
I have
it's
a
a number,
question.
it's not a person.
Hey, I have a question. So I get it that we're hanging out, we're just talking about us, but there are people who want to learn from you, or all of us on this webinar too. What works best for you when you're doing that? Because I believe that the biggest challenge is changing a person or a patient's behavior. So now I have objective data, or even before the test, what work? You said the word psychology. So I'm just curious, what is it that you do that you feel you do well without, I know you would be like, oh, well, I'm not this, I'm not that. What works for you there for some of the people who are on this webinar?
Well, I never felt like a calling towards teaching, but one thing you realize is that you can't just say, oh, it's easy, you just do this. It's not easy to some of us. It's not instinct. I can tell you I've not read a lot of psychology books, but one particular person that did have a lot of influence on me his name's Ashley Ladder. He's a British bloke. And he was a Dale Carnegie trained salesman, right? And he was teaching these sales techniques. And there was a couple dentists in his course, and he's like, oh, the light bulb went off for him. Like, wow, dentists really need help with this, and it's all about communication. So he has this whole system or workflow that really works well in even dental case presentation. But I think the thing that has helped me the most, and I even used it last week because I had 3 men all in their 40s with totally swollen faces, and I'm like, why are you waiting so long? I'm like, I wanted to get to the bottom of what would motivate them to come in more preventatively. But this is all I say. I can boil it down to these 2 questions. First is, can I ask you a question? That it gets them saying yes, because they never turn me down. Can I ask you a question? What is it about blank?
Yeah, in her whole life.
What is it about blank that concerns you? And it could be, what is it about saying that you might have sleep apnea that concerns you? What is it about treating your snoring that concerns you? What is it about the sleep test that concerns you? What is it about the implant that concerns you? It's that simple, but because it's usually time, fear, and money. And oftentimes we can eliminate some of the barriers they have. And some of it is having to go spend the night somewhere. So a home sleep test is a way to remove that barrier. they a lot of times think they only have a CPAP as an option, so they'd rather not admit they have a problem. And my dad was that person. He said, I would rather not know I had a problem I knew I was gonna ignore if all I had was CPAP.
Yeah,
You'd rather
I think
live
that's
in
part of the problem with sleep
ignorance.
is for whatever reason there's a shame or a taboo for people to own it. Whereas if you had strep throat or you had diabetes or high blood pressure, you'd say, yeah, this is what I have and I need to go properly address it. But something about sleep and sleep apnea.
I'll tell you, it's men usually. I'm sorry, men, but I see it a lot with these men. I have friends that are like in their 50s now, and they come in, they're like, okay, I've been, they know I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been talking to them, and they're finally ready to do something about it. And it's because it's an old fat man's disease. So I've kind of stopped even using the term sleep apnea, because it's immediate, like a defensive wall. So I'm just like, I just don't think you're getting the quality of sleep, and it's not your fault. It's an anatomical issue. Because I swear, as soon as you say sleep apnea, they're like, are you calling me old or calling me fat? I'm like, look, I have it, and I'm perfect. No.
It's communicating differently. How well rested are you waking up? Are you feeling refreshed? Right. And kind of asking all of the questions except saying, hey, do you have sleep apnea?
Exactly. And I said, and then knowing I have, my patients are like my family. And I think that's what I'm missing the most about not working is, I can sometimes have that conversation with them like, hey, dude, I bet you have it. Prove me wrong. I make it a competition. And then I have other people that need to be coddled, and because I know they'll get defensive. And there's times that I just have to be hands off and let them come to that conclusion. Like, I'm not force it. So I will say that women are like more relieved. Like, oh, so I'm not crazy waking up in the middle of the night and having insomnia and being exhausted and not able to lose weight. Like, there might be a reason. Yes, let's do something about it. So I think just knowing you're having that relationship with patients helps. But asking that one question is, what is it that concerns you, opens up the conversation about what their hesitancy is.
Sure. I think mainly the big part of it, it's for men anyways, it's a not my problem. So it's usually
it's my wife's problem.
Yeah, and that's the same way with me. I live it. And Ryan, I think you were saying your dad wears an oral appliance. You wear ProSomnus appliance, but every night it's made sure, do you have your mouthpiece in? Or it's right next to my bed, and I love to sleep on my back. So that's the main reason I put it there. And I've tried all the appliances, and yes, I say this because I work for ProSomnus, but then I say, no, I'm a patient, and I cannot believe how comfortable and how my device just stays in that position. And I know that I'm getting that therapy. And part of that is let me transition into Ryan's sleep test, if I can get back to there. You had a webinar not too long ago, a couple of days ago, this week, last month. The days are running together.
Groundhog Day.
Sometime this year.
But about some new services, that you're implementing or going to be able to implement. And I mean, it starts with the sleep test. Our ProSomnus, you do not treat a patient without a sleep test. And we have different partners in the industry. And, Ryan, I want to thank you for your partnership with ProSomnus and the clients that we interchange and the communication that we have here. I think that we match up with clients number one or patients number one, and clients are right there with them. So could you dive into this a little bit? And then Erin, just so you know, we're going to come back to you with 3D dentist and have a few questions on that.
Well, I think before moving on there, I think what you mentioned, I'll start with this and say the word that keeps showing up in my life right now is togetherness. And you say partnership between us. We all work with a lot of different entities. I mean, I get a new referral from Erin. She may not even know, and I either forget to text her and say thank you in email, but whether it's at a course that she's doing that I'm not even involved at. But with all due respect, there are certain scenarios where she'll find opportunities of what's best for that specific dentist because she's a great educator. And the same thing goes here. I mean, we all work with a lot of great partners, and we're blessed in the fact that we have that amongst each other, and it's fun, right? I love sitting leads to you guys, and we love playing friendly with all the right people in the same sandbox. But what you said, Brandon, earlier, it's about working with the people that have a similar feeling, passion, purpose, and a unified message, because there are plenty of people out there that we don't work with on purpose. And so anyways, grateful not only to be here, but also work back with you guys. No. Anyways, yeah. So going back to this, I was honored enough to do a webinar with our friend, Dr. John Tucker, but also Randy Curran and one of our sleep physicians, Dr. Harman Singh. You know, it was, I remember, and I said this on the webinar, it was Friday the 13th, where usually that's a great day for me because that's the day that my wife said yes to me, as far as saying yes to marrying this crazy guy that drives her insane all the time. Friday the 13th is always a great day for me. But I went home from work that day, March 13th. I went straight up to my room, my office, my home office at home, and I was like, this is getting real. Things are happening. I'm going to have to start letting people go on Monday. And like Erin said about her patients, her family, I think she probably feels the same thing about Bree and the rest of the people that work with her. We had to start letting people go, temporarily laid off or furloughed or what have you. And yeah, I'd go into those meetings every day and come out. I'd pray before and cry afterwards. If we're on a happy hour, open, vulnerable, just talking here. Mm-hmm. But I'm a business owner like you guys, but I'm also their friend. I also know that I provide for their families, and it sucked. I felt defeated day after day that whole following week. And I got a call from a mutual friend of ours and a great friend, I believe, of Erin's too, Randy Curran. And he said, come on, man, we got to do this. We got to do that. You know, Randy gets pretty fired up and rather passionate no matter what the day is. I would call this one of his William Wallace speeches.
I think Randy's watching right now, so shout out to him.
It's all good, man. He might be. I hope he is. And I give a lot of credit to this happening because of him and a lot of smart people around me that support us, that do our thing. And what we realized is we had to flip our model. And what most people won't see, there's a major flip that took place underneath that doesn't change for clients, doesn't change for anybody else. You know, there are a lot of great telemedicine applications out there. There are a lot of great people behind those telemedicine applications that you can go out, you can buy, you can operate, and you can do. But with all due respect, in working with nearly 2,000 dentists in the last however long, if you take Invisalign to now, I have learned that it does help to do a lot for them. And so we are developing a whole new sleep portal platform. And my whole goal was to finish this software platform before we tagged in telemedicine. But like a lot of educators, like Erin, she's out there going state by state. What can I say the dentist can do in this state? What can I say that they can do in that state? So, you know, we wanted to play ball with what's going on out there, and we'd plug in telemedicine when the time is right. But the time is now. And so it's time to stop feeling sorry for myself, sorry for my team, and get off my ass, pardon my French, and do something to help our clients help more patients. So, or better yet, do something on our end to help serve our clients who are our friends, serve their patients who are their family. And so we jumped right ahead. We plugged in telemedicine. So now we are completely compliant with the AADSM, AASM, every state dental board. And essentially, when a dental referral comes in, not only can we navigate the patient in network, out of network, with Medicare, or as a cash patient, they come through, they have a face-to-face telemedicine visit with a sleep physician, a board-certified sleep physician in network. So it's not a cash fee like a lot of people are doing, between $50 to $95. This is your copay. We're talking $20, $40, whatever yours is. From there, it alleviates the dentist from being the one to refer the patient in directly. If that's a problem in your state, it's not a problem in Erin's state. And I love and respect anybody who goes out to buy a watch pad, to buy a Knox T3, can deliver them yourself. I don't care. It's not a one-size-fits-all scenario for every sleep testing model. Just like I wouldn't choose one ProSomnus device over another one and say, I'm doing this one for everybody, right, guys?
Sure. Of course.
So patients are referred in, telemedicine visit up front. The board-certified sleep physician will use your referral form, go through the process, educate the patient, but also build urgency with that patient, because all of our physicians are on board with oral appliance therapy. Otherwise, they don't make it past the first interview. They then refer the patient for the sleep test. Same thing, guys. We drop ship the device, priority mail, as fast as you can get it there. 2-night study with the same apnea link air. Greg wanted me to put one on and wear one today, but I'll just show you. It's the size of a deck of cards.
Yep.
So this is sent directly to the patient's homes. Yes, with a pulse oximeter, with nose cannulas. We want all that. We want to see flow. We want to see respiration. I think we all need to be careful and cautious and smart about which devices we're using, because I'm talking to a lot of smart people and a lot of smart manufacturers out there. But not only do we need to be careful in the dental space to be able to really effectively decipher between central and obstructive apnea, but it has to be user-friendly. We're not walking into the patient's home and putting this on before they go to sleep. So since inception, we've had 97% success with all of our testing across the country, and that's thousands of studies. But that's also because we educate the patient in 4 ways. We do a 2-night study. We completely separate them. And now moving forward, the patient has the opportunity to do a follow-up telemedicine consultation with the board-certified sleep physician who physically interpreted their data. But simultaneously, we're still going to get the results to the dentist within 2 to 4 business days. Okay. But now that you've had the face-to-face visit, you get the letter of medical necessity we've already given you. You get the diagnostic summaries, again, separated. It's more work for us, but we think clinically it's the right thing to do, to separate those nights, to evaluate the patient accordingly. And then we can officially now say we can provide you with the RX, the prescription from the board-certified sleep physician who delivered, or not only delivered the results, but also interpreted the data. Now, I will tell you, I like to come from this space very indifferent. Everybody does it a different way. I can tell you, I know that Erin sends letters and has multiple physicians that she works with to get that prescription from their true intimate primary care physician. And I don't think this cuts anybody out. I think this is a collaborative care situation where, respectfully, the dentist is not treating heart disease, diabetes, obesity, etc. And we need to take care of the whole patient. But with this model, it is completely end-to-end. It is completely compliant with everything we do. And if Randy is on this call, give him some props here too, because now if you use both of our services, and I will say this up front too, use whatever billing company you want, whatever you're happy with. But Pristine has also stepped up in the COVID space to host your financial consultations with your patients directly, and they will work with one of our affiliate partners to deliver PAP therapy directly to the patient's home. Now during COVID, that's the reason this has started. But also, he knows, they see how many patients who go to dentists who don't have direct connections, great referral sources, great rapport with sleep physicians, or physicians who will deliver PAP therapy to severe patients where their carrier requires it. So just to be clear, it's not either one of our intentions to be your DME company. It's not our intention to take patients. We don't want to treat your patients. All of our patients that are referred here, we want them in oral appliance therapy, not only because we wear them and we believe in them, but it's your patient.
Yeah.
And so what that does, I think, is a really complete end-to-end process that I'm just honored and happy to share with Randy and our friends over at Pristine.
I will say that UHC did change their policy to be that strict. You know, you have to have face-to-face with the sleep physician who is the one diagnosing, who is the one recommending the appliance. So yes, I get a referral or a prescription for every single appliance I make from a healthcare provider. But UHC has been very specific, so I can see why this started. Yeah. Saying that, my hygienist husband decided, well, I have good insurance. Like, why wouldn't I just go through them? Well, that was back in October. We were trying to get it done by the end of the year. I just delivered it this week. I finally delivered his appliance. That's how long it took. And this is in a smaller town here where we have, I mean, it just took that long. And patients need help now. Like if you all of a sudden you create this urgency in the patient, and then they're just like, oh, we're going to hurry up and wait because of all the red tape. So kudos to you guys to helping remove barriers for patients to get the treatment they need.
And kind of in that same vein, you kind of led perfectly into my question. And Ryan, you noted that there's a couple steps in this workflow. And you said, so step one, we're going to send you a sleep test. And so you've worked with a number of offices, and Dr. Elliott, I'd like to get your clinical perspective on here. Tell me the step before step one. What is the proper communication for the dentist or the dental team, to communicate to that patient? And not only the communication, but are there certain screeners you're finding that work better than not? So how are you getting that patient to say, yes, I do want to at least have a sleep test? We're not talking about paying and case acceptance of the appliance down the road after the diagnosis. Simply, how do you get a patient to move forward with saying yes to being tested?
I'll answer that. I would say, again, just
Well,
making
he was asking you, not me.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm asking both. I'm asking both.
I thought so.
We're leading with the KOL. I'm just your co-host. Come on.
Again, it's knowing your patient, but one way to kind of eliminate some hesitancy too is, with connecting the dots between bruxing and sleep apnea. And one thing that I learned from T-Bone is what he says is like, hey, we know you're grinding your teeth, and we don't want to see, all the dental work that you've invested in start to fail. We're starting to see all this wear. Here you go. Here's the picture, blah, blah, blah. Well, we now know it could be connected to something called sleep apnea. And the only way we can know is if we can rule it out with a home sleep test, so we can make you the right kind of night guard. Like patients understand night guards and grinding.
Yes.
And the way he says that, we're going to rule out sleep apnea, it's saying, I don't really think you have it, but we better check just to be sure. So okay. I thought that kind of the way that you say that, it makes patients much more willing. I always say, I wish I had a crystal ball, but I don't know if it's just snoring. It very well could be, but the only way we can know is if we can measure your airflow. And then a pulse ox, it sometimes just isn't enough. I'm not a believer in pulse oxes. I know many of us in this industry use them, but I just seen so many, even moderate cases, symptomatic people that would have been told they were fine by their primary care if the primary care gave the pulse ox, or if I had. So I'm just a big believer in the home sleep test and getting them to that step.
Yeah, because I think that post COVID-19, there's going to be a lot of offices looking to get into sleep, both for the health of their patients, but also as another revenue source. I mean, if the economy's down and money's tight, dental case acceptance may not be where it was just a few months ago. So for those who may be getting into sleep, Ryan, what is your perspective on that proper communication to the patient to have that acceptance on just getting tested?
I think your key word there, Greg, is communication, right? But it has to be what I've learned over the years. It has to be from the back office to the front office, right? So it's a complete unified message that our friends at OSA University talk about too. I mean, that's one thing I've learned from them aggressively, but I also learned 12, 15 years ago at Invisalign. It works from hygiene assistant through the doctor to the front desk. We're talking about problem, consequence, solution, problem, consequence, comorbidities, solution. But what I learned for myself, that maybe some of you guys have heard me talk about this, forgive me. I had been talking about for the last 2 years when I'll lecture is all this negativity and what can happen to you and how bad you're going to feel, or how digging into that, people don't necessarily want to hear that. So I recommend a book. It's called Motivational Interviewing in Healthcare. Unfortunately, it's not on audiobook for those of you guys who like audiobook. I heard about it. You have to read it.
Pages?
Sorry.
Wow.
It's very good. But what I learned from that, and they talk quite a bit about the addiction space with smoking and alcoholism, but they go into cardiovascular disease and all that kind of stuff. And there's a little bit in there in dentists, but whatever they teach, you could actually use it across the board. And so it's kind of like taking the patient on a roller coaster. And you can actually use this with your spouses or your other relationships too. You take them through the problem consequence, but you take them now back up to the positive possibility of what you could or what you will feel like if you were able to ride bikes with your kids in the street after dinner, or play soccer in the park after dinner. Because I can tell you, I know before I got into oral appliance therapy, I was the guy, I would work all day. I wake up early, hit the gym first thing, run through the whole day, 10 to 12 hours, pretty normal, come home for dinner, help with the dishes, give the kids a bath, and I'm out on the couch. And I can tell that now when I don't wear my appliance, which is very rare, because if I do fall asleep before my wife, which is usually normal, she'll be like, Ryan, put in your appliance. Hey, so I can tell a difference. And what I get out of wearing my appliance is that it's not a possibility of the positivity. It's actually a real thing for me. The challenge is that you guys have as dentists is you can't show someone that until they're in the appliance.
Yeah.
You can talk to them until they're blue in their face, but they won't get it until 2 months after they have their appliance, 4 months or so after they do their follow-up. So that's the challenge you're up against. But I think this is all behavioral change, and behavioral change is more difficult than this clinical change.
And I would have to say that I might be biased because I'm in Idaho, where people are like, it don't hurt, I don't care. But the way that I learned it is kind of like, is this person moving away or moving towards? And so you're in California, where people are doing everything they possibly can to be healthy. And so you may talk towards that. Here, it's like, well, do you want your wife to kill you, or do you want to live? They don't care about the health consequences. I could tell them, you're going to get diabetes, you're going to get heart disease, and they won't change their behavior. So the big thing is to find their chief complaint and what is motivating them. The problem is, Ryan, you just said something about dentists educating, or we educate and talk too much. And so the way that we do our So the way that we do our consults is that we just get the patient talking, connect the dots between nocturia, getting up and using the restroom so many times a night, acid reflux, which is like every patient, the grinding, kind of connecting dots so that they can see they're treating more than just that snoring. But we don't do the talking. We draw the conversation out of them so they connect the dots. And I think that
that's it. That's motivational interviewing.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know I was doing it.
Yeah.
You let them. Sorry, I'm looking down here.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you're doing. You're getting them to come up with the self-talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you guys ever hear of Masterclass?
Say it again.
Masterclass. It's an online subscription to learn a number of different topics. So I recently enrolled, and one of them that I was recommended to look at was on a negotiation, and it has a former FBI or a New York City cop negotiator that it's pretty cool. So he talks about the technique of proper questions to ask and proper reaffirmation of what the hostage or hostage takers are saying. And just like you guys are saying, there's just the negotiator is only doing about 10 to 15% of the talking and just guiding the conversation a little bit. So talking to the hostage taker, okay, what exactly do you need? And repeating proper phrasing. And it's pretty cool. I'd recommend it, but it certainly applies in all aspects of life. But perhaps in speaking with patients, it's what is their chief complaint? Why are they in here? Dr. Elliott, like you were saying, you ask them the question, they say yes, and then you run with that. Okay, so they've said yes. Now, how do we continue for the patient to guide this conversation? Because they're the ones who got in their car and drove to your office.
Yeah, exactly. I also, you asked about screeners. I technically don't really use them. In our, medical intake form, our health history, we ask questions about, have you been told you snore? We never ask, do you snore anymore? Because we all know the answer to that.
Love that
have
question.
you been told that you snore? Have you worn a CPAP? Have you in the past? Or have you been told to get one? All different questions.
Sure.
And then, each team member knows what to look for on health history and the dental signs and symptoms. So it's a conversation. Again, we have rapport with these patients. We know them from the community. We know their spouse, so we hear the real story. And so for us, it's more of a conversation to get them into a consult where we can really sit down with them. It doesn't happen in a hygiene exam, and I know the dentists that have regular dental practices on this webinar right now are like, yeah, my hygienists are always on me about getting excited and talking to the patient for so long. Now it just builds up resentment into the hygienist, like, well, I'm not even going to bring this up anymore because then I'm going to be running late for my next patient. So our whole goal is you can move rooms or just get them to that consult. And I have a sleep champion that basically runs that column. And that's kind of how we worked it within the team. That the team identifies the patients, not a screener on a piece of paper.
And that's what's great about the 3D dentist on there, that you encourage, almost make it mandatory. I would say that they bring staff members, or at least one staff member
For the training.
Because it is a delegating industry for the dentist, I think. And the biggest trend that I've seen over the years is there's no longer the one or two main sleep dentists in a metroplex. Now there's 15 or 20 that are really trying to build the practice. And then there's still some dabbling in it. But with COVID and with all the cancellations of everything, what is 3D dentists doing, or can you share what the plans are, or for motivation with teams, with, again, helping?
Yeah, and that's exactly the road we were already going down. Like Ryan, you were talking about, we were already getting everything set up for telemedicine, and now we were kind of forced into it. Well, we were already getting stuff together to do an online course, because so many times offices come and the number one thing we hear is, you told me I should have brought my team, and I really should have. Like almost every time. So, and I know it's difficult to get we go West Coast and East Coast, we're not always in Raleigh. So we had things started to get online, and I'm going to throw T-Bone under the bus here, but he's a brilliant, brilliant man. But then he like comes up with these great things and then doesn't do the follow through. And that's where I always come into play. Like, that's why we're a good team, because I actually get things done. But I couldn't get his motivation up, but now we're at a point where it's gonna happen and we're gonna get our course online. So we had to cancel our March 27th course, and we have one May 2nd and 3rd. Well, everything was so up in the air. So we're basically gonna live stream the course. So this will be the first time. I've gotten some practice in over the last few weeks doing so many webinars, but not having people laugh at my jokes so loudly.
Yeah. Well, we don't have the big things that say that flash and say laugh.
I know. It's okay. I think my jokes are funny, so I'll just go with them. But
so I do ask that you then, after this webinar, that you could post maybe on your Facebook or your LinkedIn for anybody here that wants more information, to post about that May webinar if you can.
Yeah. So we're live streaming it next weekend, next Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 3. So I will post that, and it's just one low cost, and you can have your whole team there, and we wouldn't even know the difference. Or you could watch it in your underwear. Whatever you want. But it will be online. It will be online soon. But there, one thing I thought about, with COVID and us being forced to do online learning and education and communication, is that we're either going to find out that this is what we should do all the time
Yep.
and forget live courses, or we're going to learn that we really like conferences and live courses. And I'll tell you, I really like courses and people
Yeah.
and interaction and connecting that way. Maybe it's because I'm old, but online is just.
I think we all like the conferences. I don't know if the people reimbursing the expense budgets do, but Ryan, I know we had a blast out in Nashville. I see your partner in crime, Joey Yaller here. Joey, shout out. I know we had some fun in the DS3 in Clearwater, and everyone. It's great times to bond with people, and I think that, and you guys may all agree or may not agree, but the 9 to 5 content that's on the stage is great. But sometimes that lobby bar at 10:30 at night and the side conversations that you're having could be really relationship building, which can be just as important. But then also just it's okay. You said the politically correct stuff up on stage, but let's talk. And I think that's where a lot of things, kind of where the rubber hits the road, is off camera.
For sure, and I do miss everybody, but we're gonna go back. We're gonna keep it in the books for our live course in Nashville, July 31st and August 1st, and then we have one in November in Raleigh again. But I'm just gonna roll with the punches. There's, things are out of my control mostly.
Mm-hmm.
I never fully.
How's that feel?
Control. No, because there's still things we can do, right? There's still things we can work within the context that we're handed. So it's not totally out of my control, I suppose. But I see that you have the slide that Mark Murphy shared on one of his.
Slide.
Oh, I do. I actually screenshotted it.
What are your thoughts?
I had a tightness in my chest, anxiety that I have never felt before. And I do feel that before I go on stage. However, that's within my control. And once I get going, I'm fine. But literally, it was the unknown, the uncertainty. But do we shut down? Well, we haven't even had a case yet, and we still haven't had any hospitalizations. But it was that anxiety of, what do I do with my team? And as soon as I was like, okay, they'll be taken care of if we furlough them, as clarity came, I started to feel better. But yeah, it was the fear, and the learning part is difficult because there's so much noise. But I think we have a focus, and we have, we're in the zone, the growth zone now for sure. But, like it says down there, I look for a way to adapt to new changes, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, because if you don't, things are going to change regardless.
Yeah.
But the hand, like you said, the online learning content, well, you weren't planning on it, but if you don't, you're not keeping up. So your hand is a little forced.
Yep, I was resistant.
So for people who aren't familiar with your training, Dr. Elliott, what's the quick takeaway that they could expect? And so they go on the course, I believe, is a Friday and a Saturday. So what's the expectations for the sleep for the clinician and their staff when they go there, and when they come back on Monday, what do they know that they didn't know last week?
I think more clarity on the step-by-step flow. Like, you have a patient in the hygiene chair, what do you do next? Like, even down to how much time you schedule, because you can learn so much head knowledge, and everything I teach is really really simplified. That's why I said I won't speak to like advanced learners, because it's so simplified, but it's based in science, right? But I'm just like, hey, this is what we look for. I don't go into every study that shows every anatomical factor, but it's just mostly step-by-step and practical and team focused, and what can be delegated and what each person's role is. All the paperwork that you need, and then we have a forum for follow-up, because there's so many changes, like the UHC guideline change. I have to keep people informed of that. I feel like it's my job to go learn all of the complicated stuff and keep my pulse on and everything, and then break it down into practical.
Sift what's the garbage, what's important.
And even the patient communication tips, I kind of throw in there along the way. I don't have a specific. Even the role play of an actual consult that we do, that that's pretty impactful as well, because everything I say, the patient's going to say, the patient says. It's amazing.
That's great.
Makes me look smart.
And Ryan, how about you? So
I recently, hang on real quick. I got to give her some props because I recently got a VIP invitation as a guest to come down to Erin Elliott's course in San Diego. And I got to say, I've seen her speak a million times. But I got to say, the education of the content is real. But the way it's put across is simple to get, because I think there are a lot of educators out there who want to feel, and don't get me wrong, you're one of the smartest people I know, but they want to feel smart because their ego is so high, and I have to go into this data that I'm going to completely put everybody to sleep. Yep. And she just connects with the crowd really well because she does throw in a joke here and there, but not too many where it's overdone. Like some people do too. We're like, wow, did they just throw a joke in there? But for me, it was a really cool connection. I was taking more notes than anybody else, and she embarrassed me a few times in the back of the room. Especially when I got up to leave early because I wanted to beat traffic back up to Orange County to San Diego. But I'm proud of you. It's like I'd say that. I don't know if I should say that or not, but we talk a lot about speaking, and we both get nervous in front of people. And it's challenging because there's a certain expectation for us to know it all or her to know it all. But I think the one thing I really pulled away from that course, it's just welcoming, and you get to connect with her because she comes across as she's just like you in the crowd. And yes. So I think that's one thing that I look for.
Yeah. I am just like them.
Yeah.
And
no, you're not.
I wasn't seeking it out by any means. So it was kind of just thrust upon me, and the timing was right with my kids and my family and my practice. So it's been a fun adventure, and I get to, meet a lot of great people who want what's best for their patients in their practice. Yeah. So,
and you've taught a lot of practices that I've benefited from, that ProSomnus side, and I'm sure other appliance manufacturers. So I'm just
well, we've even had diplomates in our course and people that have taken all sorts of courses, but it was like, wow, now it's like I have a roadmap now.
And offices are doing it. It's not just like, it's not a course that people are going to and then saying, let's implement it Monday, and then by Friday it's old news already.
Yeah.
Offices are moving, are seeing patients, are testing patients, and are talking about and treating patients, and that's I guess the best.
And one of the hardest things. One hard thing to communicate too is that even though I teach under 3D dentists, it's not 3D focused. You don't have to own Code and Beam to come. It's for anybody and everyone. You don't have to be digital. I practiced sleep for a long time without Code and Beam, but if you have it, I can certainly teach you how to use it for sleep, but that's not a qualification to come to the course.
Sure. And then Ryan, can you give us just a brief overview of somebody expects or is interested in your services, as I assume more and more dentists will be? What could they expect? How could they get in touch with you? And how do they get the ball rolling? Because we know that every office has maybe 40% of the patients on the books have some sort of sleep disorder breathing. So how can we get the ball rolling, or how can they get the ball rolling with sleeptest.com?
Well, thank you for asking. You guys have it here on purpose. Anybody on this webinar is welcome to contact me directly right there. I'll plan a personal one-on-one webinar demo with you in 30 to 40 minutes. You can either do that or just go to the website. Take a look at the website. It's sleeptest.com. You can actually click there to schedule a meeting with either me or one of our team members for a demo. We like everybody to see this from a step-by-step process before you get involved in something, for a couple of reasons. I don't like to buy anything until I fully understand the process. But we also look at this, with all due respect, differently than a local sleep lab or potentially other home sleep test providers. It has to be a partnership. Okay. And there have been times where I have told doctors that, you know what, maybe this isn't for you. And so I will personally get on 99% of our new potential client webinars because I want to get to know the doctor. I want to get to know their team. I want to understand where they are in their process, because we want to connect them with our friends, because I think you need 4 things to get this going. It's not just sleep testing. Of course, you need diagnostics before I deliver appliance therapy. But then from there, can we refer them to our friends at ProSomnus? And Greg and Brandon have been great with their team to reconnect with our clients when they come on board. Plus, you guys are in their doors, and you guys give a great discount to all of our clients up front, so we're grateful for that. But I also think you need to know how to bill for it or hire someone to bill for it. So we talk about that. On top of that, you need the CE. You need some kind of training, not only for the doctor, but for the team. So it's important to us that when we get on these calls with these doctors, it's not a sales call to tell you to buy our service. It's more of how can we consult with you to implement dental sleep with the right partners that we know. And that's exactly what we do. So forgive me. My attorney always says, Ryan, 2 sentences. I'm terrible at that. Email me there. You can call there. You can set up a time with me direct. I will personally make time for anybody on this webinar. Just give us a shout. Happy to connect with you.
Can you go to my slide real quick too? And I'll tell you, Ryan to me is like the hardest working, most sincere person, full of integrity. So you can't go wrong there. Just that I have 2 T's in my last name. So if you do email me, make sure you put 2 L's, 2 T's, and 2 D's, because I've even registered the misspelled spelling of my name with Gmail, and I get plenty of emails there on accident.
So smart.
Yeah. The blonde hair.
Oh no! Can you go back to my slide now?
No.
Hang on.
My hair is there.
Wait, I think we have a couple timeout. I think we need to get a couple of the slide with a couple pictures from Dr. Elliott. Brandon, can we get there real quick and just get a little context on some?
Let's go back to, I got to get Spider-Man's. I'll get that one there, or.
Let's go to the full screen one. Yeah, so again, what should people type in YouTube right now?
Air Baby and Erin Elliott, or Queen of Good Air and Erin Elliott.
I think it's a great way to get some information and dentists to share with your staff, because it's good. It's entertaining.
Yeah, it was for patients. It was for dentists. It was making a total fool of myself, but all in.
There's no shortage of messing around, having fun, pulling pranks in that household. So we know where this all comes from. I love it.
I've heard some stories. Yes.
And then in sake of time, I know, Greg, you always have a great question to finish this off here, but I did have one come through on my text, either to share one misconception that that slow down maybe a new sleep dentist, or one pearl that you might want to share for any level of sleep dentist. So we'll give it to you too, and then I'm sure Greg has some amazing question for you, a deep dive into your psyche.
One pearl, I feel like I've shared so many, you can make a necklace out of it.
That's right.
I think so.
I'm not going to say a word after that.
I would just say, I've already said it, get your team involved, get your team excited, have them find their why, because you will come across speed bumps, you will get denials. And the way that I see a denial now is like, oh yeah, no you didn't, like I'm gonna win. So just find your why and don't give up. If you get to, because I just have so many people that just throw their hands up. Doesn't work. I told you, doesn't work. It must, because there's enough of us doing this. Surround yourself by the people that are, and find out what it is. Like anytime my kids give me an excuse, my team gives me an excuse, I can find a way around it. So just don't give up.
It's like Jimmy V.
Yeah. Love that.
Ryan?
I don't know who that is.
It's a good speech. Look it up. Jimmy V. Never give up.
Okay.
I would say, well, I'll kind of couple with what Erin said, right? It's getting your team on board and doing the education, but get the right education. I can't tell you how many times I talk to a doctor 3 times a week who heard something from this educator or this group or this thing. I think one of the biggest challenges in our industry is what a dentist can and can't do, what a dentist should or shouldn't do. And there's a lot of stuff out there that's totally wrong. And we just need to all get on the same page. So find good education and make sure you're implementing that good quality education. And I think everybody on here can give you insight without getting too far into it to where you can find that information. That's all.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
educate
mean,
yourself.
there's a lot of overeducated dentists are not doing a lot of appliances. So what
Yeah.
is it that's the bottleneck? What's the problem? Yeah, don't give up.
And just one thing I don't think we noted, in case anyone is or is not aware, that Dr. Elliott is not a sleep-only practice. You have a full dental practice as well as a pretty full sleep practice. So some people think that it's either or that if you're doing dentistry, you could only do a little bit of sleep. And I think that you've proven that. We know a fair amount of dentists out there, and there are quite a few that are doing dental and sleep, but you're one of the ones that's, from what we understand, doing them both quite successfully. So kudos.
I try. Thank you.
Yes, yes. All right,
I do
so
have to
during the
share
pandemic,
one
what do you
last
guys?
Oh, sorry. So can you read that? It says FiOS, FiOS. So that would be instead of don't give up, what that means is figure it out, stupid, or silly. Sorry, I'll be politically correct, but it just says figure it out. So that's kind of my solution to everything.
Yeah, that's the truth. So we're in a pandemic together now. What we'll finish this up right now. Anything you guys have been doing outside of work to keep your sanity? Any shows, any books, any new hobbies?
I've read a lot. I don't. Sorry, Ryan. Don't read a lot of business books. I try. So I've just been escaping into some novels, doing a lot of reading of dental sleep medicine research, but spending time with my kids and my husband and getting on that stupid Peloton. So I hate every second of it, but I have a bunch of dentist friends that are good accountability. So
Nice.
when it comes to, I'm motivated in so many other areas, but I need accountability when it comes to that.
Accountability is good, particularly when your friend's doing it.
Yeah.
Ryan?
I'm just working a lot. Yeah, I mean, that's it, man. I am working 12, sometimes 14 hours a day, sometimes Saturday. We got a lot of things going on over here that are great, but picking up where others can't be here. And so, I mean, that's really it. But what I've learned from that is some gratitude and some contentment and the silver linings of doing a better job of being completely present with my family when I'm home. We love, even though we haven't been able to do our walks at the beach or whatever, we've got a killer trail around our neighborhood. And I got one of those new not new, but I got a 40-pound weight vest. And so as Erin and I love to do the gym in the morning, I don't have the gym. And it's really hard for me to like jump out my door in the morning at 5 a.m. and go for a run.
Particularly when it's like 85 out. I'm sure it's really difficult when it's 85 and sunny in
Yeah.
California. I get it, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's still dark out when I get up, brother. But I'll do that with my family, and we stop and we play tag. We'll stop, we play hide and go seek. We stop and play random games that my kids come up with that make no sense whatsoever, but just an opportunity to kind of be silly or stupid. That's all.
Good. Brandon, any last words?
Well, I was just, again, with ProSomnus, reach out to your rep. If you don't know your rep, feel free to reach out to Greg or I. We're here. Len said it earlier. We still have our 7-day in-house turnaround time, 12 to 13 business days from when it leaves your office to when it's back. We have that precision milled where it's going to keep you in that position device. So we'd love to help you out, point you in the right direction, whether it be sleep tests, or some CE that you need, or even some of the pearls that Dr. Elliott has in her necklace, whatever you need. Just give us a call or an email. on this. These guys might not have as ball handling skills as these two do when it comes to soccer, but this is next week's happy hour. Dr. Kent Smith, Dr. Ryan Robinson, they are both in the trenches along with our two guests today, getting as much treatment to patients as possible. So Greg, I'll let you take us out.
Yeah, I think both of these clinicians, I think Ken Smith, he's been on every webinar. His name's been brought up on every webinar for sure. He and Dr. Robinson, they have very, I think, unique and comprehensive offices in terms of what they offer and what kind of services they provide for their patients, not just sleep, but going beyond. I was at Dr. Robinson's office. I mean, he does lactation consulting. He does myofunctional therapy. So really pretty cool, pretty progressive offices. And I think they're going to talk a little bit about, in your space, in your dental office, what else can you provide aside from just typical dentistry? How can you expand your services, particularly now, if case acceptance and economics are impacted? How can you diversify your services to grow your business? So looking forward to that.
Thanks for doing this, guys.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for joining us.
Ryan,
Thanks
I'll
for
check
having
out
us.
one of the podcasts I've seen or watched, or listened to, and I don't know if it's Tim Ferriss or Aubrey Marcus or I don't know who, but you've probably listened to them all, and they finished saying, okay, if you had a billboard that the whole world could see, what do you write on the billboard?
So I think different than what I had thought I was going to say, considering some of these questions I knew in advance. But this word that keeps coming up in my life everywhere right now is togetherness. So it's nothing to do with my why, nothing to do with anything. I think it's just kind of something that I hope carries along as we get past COVID. Because to me, that means generosity of your time, generosity of what you can give, generosity of everything. I think it's partnering with people, being closer with your family, a little bit of everything. So just straight up togetherness.
Nice, I like it.
Now, it might change tomorrow, but right now I'm thinking
Sure.
together.
Right now, I like it. Dr. Elliott?
Oh gosh, I struggle with this one. I don't even know. Hashtag FiOS. Hashtag
I was
make it
gonna say,
happen.
come on, figure it out, silly.
Hashtag make it happen.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Make it happen.
We appreciate you guys' time. Thank you so much. And
Thank you guys for having us. Appreciate
this
it.
was
Good
fun.
you guys.
So,
Cheers.
yeah, likewise. You guys are good people. It's always
Seriously.
nice to hang out with you, and everyone. Peace. Have a good weekend.
All right. Peace.
And Joey, I think Carol Baskin's guilty.